both as a member of a team and now an external. Has anyone else noticed like being in these types of sessions where people kind of hang on to their ideas and they won't share? I'm just going to have a look in the chat. There's a +1 there. Anyone want to come off a mute and share any scenarios? Anyone? No? All right, I'll carry on. All right, yeah, I felt that. I felt the crickets. In Australia, you've got to be careful if there's crickets. You might get bitten. Which has led to one of the problems we face as facilitators. It's getting people to stop defaulting to a solution, to ideate, to listen to others, and to take risks and be vulnerable. This is hard. There isn't a silver bullet. It takes more than Sharpies, sticky notes, or one of those interactive boards and a positive attitude to foster a space for blue sky thinking and creative problem solving, especially in cultures where principles such as collaboration, curiosity, and agility aren't nurtured or rewarded. Now, we're constantly trying to find the best ways to encourage people to have the confidence to take risks and think expansively and be creative to yield more interesting outcomes. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to share one of the methods that we have successfully adopted at MoreSpace to unlock these types of challenges and free people's minds. It's called Integrated Thinking by Roger Martin. We discovered it from the book Creating Great Choices, which I believe is going to be shared in the chat. I've just got to see this. Somebody shared a GIF. Ben has shared a GIF of somebody with a tape on their mouth. Yes, that's how I'm feeling. So give me love back. Feel like giving me love. The basic premise behind integrated thinking is that it's a systematic approach for ideation and co-creation, especially when faced with two different or opposing ideas. It challenges us to ask what needs to be true to create a better answer. Rather than compromise, we seek to understand the fundamental components of each of the models to determine the root causes and impacts. This means looking at how they benefit people, where these impacts align, as well as how they hold tension. Now, the great thing we've found is a sound method for priming people to hold a space and feel comfortable exploring options without feeling challenged against their ideas. Now, if you, like me, you would have also researched methods of creativity for ideation sessions and seen suggestions for remixing things, reducing things, with no real decent pathway to achieve this. Well, integrated thinking can do this. So when you consider the principles we'll share today, we believe that you will have a method to help individuals to collaborate and build on the ideas of others and to be able to encourage that blue sky thinking and creativity. We'll end with some final thoughts and questions, and I'll share where you can connect with us at MoreSpace to continue the conversations. Now, take notes if you need, but I prefer you to be present and participate. So there are 4 steps in the model, and we're only going to cover 3 today. Step 1 is where we articulate the models. Here we seek to understand the problem to tease out 2 opposing models for solving it. Step 2, we'll examine the models to define how they impact stakeholders, then from their position, the points of tension and similarity. And finally, just for today, step 3, where we're going to stop after we've explored and look at how we can create something new. Now, beyond this is step 4. And this is where we create and test prototypes to assess our assumptions and then refine the possibilities. So before I continue, please don't face me with any crickets. Anyone got any thoughts, observations? Is anyone familiar with this way of thinking? Anyone? There's going to be crickets. I can feel it. I can hear them. Has a comment. Go on, Cheska.
No, it's actually something I'm not familiar with, your last question. So I'm super curious to know how it's different from other models, and maybe later that's something we can touch in the Q&A. But thank you so much for sharing your time, Dan.
All right. I think everyone's ready to get into it, and I feel like I've spoken enough. Okay, so we're going to open up the Miro board now. So before I carry on, I'm just going to ask, do we need to do a quick run through of Miro, how it works? Cheska, Anna, do you want to do that? Or how do you want
We can quickly do. So just a quick raise hands actually, or quick disagree, agree. If anyone doesn't know how to operate Miro, just click on the reaction 2. Okay, we're seeing does everyone know? Bit of reactions. Okay, lovely. So I don't think we need to really go into the Miro onboarding for now. So Anna Maria can discuss the mechanics of the breakouts.
All right, that's awesome. All right, so before we do that, so this is pretty simple. I'm going to take us to the first part with Mr. McAllister there, a former Mr. McAllister. Well, still a Mr. McAllister. Anyway, so this is stage 1. So we're going to look at stage 1 first up, of framing or articulating the models. We're in our first activity, and this is going to guide us through the first stage of the process to articulate 2 opposing models. Today, we have a predefined starting point. Now, if we'd had more time, we would have worked for a series of steps to define a relevant challenge and then frame 2 opposing answers. We haven't got that amount of time because obviously I've jabbered on for the first 10 minutes, but we just don't have that amount of time today. So we've presented a challenge that's familiar to all of us, especially in the current climate. And this is 2 models of work that we find ourselves in, remote and in person. And you'll see that green area there. I can see all these little things buzzing around. We've framed this in a question to focus on for the duration of today's session. And the question is, how might we create an integrated and adaptive working model that takes the best practices of on-premise and remote work? Now, let me know with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is that a question that's relevant to people here today? On-person, yeah. Is everyone remote? Like, is anyone going back into the office yet? Everyone's remote, I'm going to assume. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is individually explore each of the modules of remote work and in-person or on-premise work to create a pro list, not a pro-con list, but a pro list. That's the first thing we do. We look at the pros that captures our understanding of the best bits of either model. The big idea with this activity is to get us thinking about each of the models independently to call out the key attributes, identifying really what sets them apart. Now, again, I just want to say we're not expecting to solve this challenge today. We just want you to explore and use this to understand and work through the process. Also, it doesn't matter that we all have different models and frameworks of remote and in-person work. The fact that you all come from different office environments and countries is a great thing, as it will add to the diversity of our conversation today. So I'm going to give us 3 minutes. So the guys, I'm going to ask you to run the board in regards to the timer and that, just because I want to read things out. And we're going to focus on model 1. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes now to brainstorm. Just double click on the sticky notes, whichever one you want, and add the key pro attributes related to working from on-premise, from an office environment. Just really simple, whatever you like. We're going to start those 3 minutes now. And I'm going to ask you, just try to go a bit deeper than the commute or geography to provide enough idea so somebody could get the essence of the model. This means taking the time to explain it in maybe a sentence or 2. And I'm asking you just to focus on those pros. Consider the things you love, look forward to, how the model works, what benefits it produces, why these outcomes matter. Now, whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to see what you're going to put, and I'm going to call some things out. So we've got free coffee. Brilliant. Coffee chats. God, everyone here is fueled by coffee. Onboarding new colleagues feels easier. Has anybody had experience onboarding colleagues remotely? Like, do you want to come off the mute? Let us know. Don't be shy. We're all friends here. We're in the ButterMixer. Anyone? Come on.
Maybe a net.
They've all gone into their avatars. Anyone? All right. I can't call anyone out. Some smiley faces. What else we are? Being able to focus because of the ambience. I'm messing with you. Nudge people in a nicer way. Well, it's pretty nice nudging going on here. Water cooler conversations. Has anyone actually got a water cooler at work? Or is that a thing? Actual collaboration. What do we think about that, Butter? Lunch bar. Has anyone got a lunch bar? Breaks are better. So I'm working from home, and today I went and sat outside on the front, took my shoes and stuff off, and meditated for 5 minutes. It's incredible. I've never done that before at work. Onboarding, spontaneous combustion. And somebody put spontaneous combustion conversations. Reading non-verbal cues. More support working together. Walking with coffee break. Having a walk. After work beers. Remote all day beers. Brilliant. So we got a minute. Maybe we'll just move on, I think. What do you think, Anna? We've got some great ideas. Does anyone want to call anything out? I have to move closer because my eyesight's really crap. I don't want to put on my binoculars. Communication is faster. Breaking up with colleagues, somebody put in there. I'm joking. Hearing conversations, able to separate work from home. Beaks are better, somebody else put, Timothy. Beaks. You wear beaks at work? Or is that masks? Also, I've got some chat situation going on here as well. Somebody's put Snow White, guzzling coffee. Brilliant. All right, how long we got left, guys? I'm just looking for the... Oh, we got 10 seconds left, it looks like. All right. Anything else? Eye contact and body language. Continuing that tapping on the shoulder. So who's the person that walks around the office tapping people on the shoulder? You crazy person. Awesome. Mutual motivation. That sounds good. Mutual motivation. There's a great podcast called Flow, which I recommend, and that will give you a bit of mutual motivation. All right, I'm going to call it. Are we out of time, Anna? I can't see where the timer is.
Yes, we're good to go to the second model then. And if I can just make an observation, it feels like all of the points that were mentioned, like all of the sticky notes, are a reflection of this kind of like unplanned, really serendipitous moments that you don't have to plan something in your calendar, just bumping into someone. It's like, oh, let's talk about that. And by the way, have you seen that? And let's grab a coffee and so on. So that's, for me personally, the leitmotif that I'm taking out of the stickies.
Well, I'm kind of worried because a lot of them involve touching people as well. So there's not much permission. There's a lot of touching and poking and tapping. All right. So we're going to focus on the next. I obviously don't work at the right places. We're now going to focus on the next model, which is remote work. So again, I'm going to ask you to focus on the greenies and just put the key attributes related to working at home, how the model works, the benefits, the outcomes that matter to you, what you've loved, you've learned, what you adapted in this model. And whilst you're working, I'll read out, add to the, call out anything interesting. So I can see you all appear. Do it, go for it. Anna, if you could just give me a nudge as we get to that 3 minutes as well, because
yes.
I can't see the timer. So, home routine is more flexible. Snacks every day. Oh my goodness, yes. How often? What's the average number of times you go to the cupboard to go and check out? Even when it's empty, you go back there, you just wish that you hadn't eaten all that chocolate or whatever it is. You can't be judged. Yes, you can't be judged. I don't need to wear pants. Yeah, well, that's up to you. Better technical equipment, less noise. More time with kids and family, yes. More reflection. Full chunks of uninterrupted work. Cats and dogs. Somebody wears their pajamas all day long. That's like my little ones. My kids wear their pajamas all day. Can be with my dog. Here's mine. Oh, mine's asleep. I'll show you him. Here, mine asleep. Here's my partner in crime here, Lindsay. He's asleep. Can go for walks with my dog. Awesome. What else we got going on? Focus work. Oh, I need to zoom out. So I think you're getting a bit of an idea here. So what we're doing is we're just calling out anything that's, all the key attributes of that. We're not actually focusing on the models themselves. We're just trying to look at those plus points. We're just trying to call out the things that matter. So what we're doing in a way is we're starting to abstract the problem almost down to a first principles approach of not worrying about the platform, what it's attached to. We're just pulling out those key components of that. So we've got just a minute left, but I reckon we can stop that. I reckon we've got enough there working while on my bed. Awesome, that's fantastic. So at this point, we've really got a shared understanding of each of the models, which we can clearly communicate with people. Now, from here, we'd start to use an activity. If we wanted to get a little bit further in some of these things, to like abstraction laddering, to understand the why, what the value is, and how we could potentially solve it, to start coming up with ideas, or we could do some form of problem tree analysis to go a little bit deeper as well, to unpack causes and effects, to get a bit more fidelity on ideas. So we're going to move across now that we've kind of broken these models apart to their core components. We're going to move across to examine the models now. There you go. I can just see everybody's cursor whoosh across. That was really cool. So the next step, we've got that. We understand the models. We have a good understanding. We've just called out the pro parts. We're not worrying about the negatives. The next step is to look at the models together for a series of questions. Now, these questions are not intended to be a step-by-step checklist, but they're just a series of prompts to further our thinking and understand where the value creation is. But we're going to do it from the perspective of this, the key stakeholders from each of these models. Now, you're going to have to forgive me because I've crudely included just two models, just two very simple models, one representing the workforce and one representing the organizations, so more the managers, whether they're middle managers or senior leadership team, and more the workforce. I'm assuming that's cool with everyone. We just try to be super simple, so workforce, managers, and I'm hoping that there'll be people here that will fall into both camps. So we're going to use the insights that we've just called out, and we'll use them for inspiration for how these models are similar and different in terms of the value creation for each of these people. Now, again, caveat, this is a light version of this stage. We'd usually take a little bit longer. So we're going to randomly pair you up in a moment, and in your pairs, we're going to ask you to take the perspective of the highlighted stakeholders on the workboard, whether that's the workforce, as I mentioned, and you might defer to your knowns, or the management. Now, the most important thing in regard to this exercise is to understand that different people value different aspects of those models, or whatever models you use, to different degrees. You might want to precede this with some form of empathy mapping or persona creation, just so you had a bit more of a clearer reference point, or you might back this up with some surveys or analytics and data. But just for today, we're just going to go off of what we know. So what we're going to ask in a moment is to think about what each person most values, because this can help clarify the models and the benefits as we dig deeper into their own thinking to explain what they value and why. So for 5 minutes shortly, we're going to put you in pairs. And in your pairs, I'd like you to discuss and capture on the board what you believe the top three benefits of each model for each of the stakeholders are, just for the on-premise. Now, just before you do that, I'm going to ask the guys, do we need to explain to everyone how we're going to put them in the breakout rooms?
Yes, so I'm going to take a moment to explain it, because we're going to do something fun today, and we are going to mimic a real conference environment. So once I'm done explaining, Cheska is going to pair us up in the breakout rooms, and those breakout rooms are going to remain open until the end of the workshop, because we're going to have a bit of a dance in between the main room, which is the plenum, that's where we are right now, and our own breakout rooms. So the important thing there is to mind and remember the breakout room number that you're going to be placed in. Breakout room 1, 2, 3, and so on. Because we are going to come back to the main room and go back in the breakout rooms individually and without any kind of automation from our side. So imagine that we're all in a big room, and then we have small pairs, then we come together, then we go in small pairs, and so on. And you will continue working with the same pair throughout the rest of the workshop. Now, Cheska has added in the chat already how that looks like. The break rooms are going to open in the upper right side of your screen. And we are going to keep time for you and broadcast when it's time for you to join us back into the main room. Exactly 5 minutes for the first model, 5 minutes for the second one. But we are basically going to come back and then return, right? So mind the messages that are going to be popping in your breakout rooms, and then go there. You will find the button of joining the main room. We'll meet you here, and then we'll go back. So those rooms are going to stay open. Do we have any questions? Please unmute yourselves and let us know before Cheska runs her magic with the rooms in the back.
The dancing will be in the main room, but you guys will be coming up with top three, just top three. Just for one. So that's the first one is on premise. So just have a discussion, just list your top three from their perspective. All right?
Are you ready?
Wonderful. And
I'm going to start dancing whilst everyone goes. All right?
Okay. I think we are good. In 1, 2, okay, now 1 moment. 3.
I've done all my moves. So you can
start. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to pop it in chat. Just in case. See you guys. Okay.
Hey guys, are we all back? Is everyone back?
Oh, yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome, welcome. All right, so I'm going to hand the mic over. Is anyone going to call anything out? What they had their discussion? Let's hear what you guys discussed. All right, who am I going to pick on first? Yeah, you've gone all small. Christian, tell me, what did you guys discuss?
Well, first of all, we had two Christians in our room, so I'm not sure if you're referring to me or the other one, but anyway.
You now.
Well, coffee chat was kind of the first one that was obvious for the workforce, and I think for the managers it was more like reading the team's stress level, reading the team's atmosphere, things like that. Awesome.
Let's just call one more person out. I was going to go really easy and not look at anyone and say Christian, but that's not fair. How about Veronica? Veronica, how about yourself? What did you guys discuss?
Hello. So I was paired with Susanna, and we were discussing about. We didn't get to finish it until the managers, but for the workforce, we were more focused on cultivating a community and having a motivation, because proximity is contagious, especially if the coworkers are very motivated to work. You feel like you have to do a part as well, and then being able to focus because of you're in an office setting. So that's up for the work.
Not distracted by the washing and things like that.
Exactly.
Cool, that's wicked. Thanks for sharing, Veronica. So we're going to keep things moving. So just make an observation, guys. So this is a really good way of kind of using those insights from empathy mapping, or really quickly getting into the mind of your customer and moving the conversation away from I think I know to, well, she thinks, she is our customer, or he is our customer, or this is our stakeholder, and this is how they would benefit. So it's really good, again, stopping that conversation, like people getting attached to that conversation or their ideas. So now we're going to go back into our breakout rooms. I'm going to ask you to look at model 2. So hopefully you all remember your number rooms. And this time we're just going to give you 4 minutes. Just 4 minutes to call out the top 3 things from both stakeholders. So I'm going to let the guys send you off for... Welcome back. Who was halfway through a sentence? Say, I
was.
Sorry. I want to keep us moving. We ain't got much time. I've got 2 more activities to do before we go, though. Was there anyone want to come out and tell me what they got? Anyone? Okay, so pajamas with an A. Exercise. I would have thought going to the gym at work. I know people that go, and then we've got less control, more freedom, higher team productivity, no commute. So managers hate commuting, it seems, and exercise. And it seems like we share the shower situation and the PJs, both of you. Some truths coming out from the managers. Okay, awesome. So we're going to move on to one more question before we move on to the third stage, just because I want to add a little bit more fidelity to this stage, because usually we ask quite a few things just to get a really good understanding of the perspective from the key stakeholders. So if we move across now to we move across, so we're going to zoom out again, and again we're going to ask you to go. Should we put people in the same pairs, or should we put them in different pairs this time, guys? What do you reckon?
I think that same is easier because we already know each other, so we can build on each other's ideas.
So the risk factor is very low. All right, we're going to stick with the same. Okay, so based on your insights, we're going to zoom out, and again in pairs. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask you in your 5 minutes to discuss and note any similarities and any tensions in the models. So anything that you can see from both models that you know so you can revisit all of the different things, not just from the stakeholders' perspective, anything that's similar, and just note it down, and any kind of tensions, any things that are opposing. For example, commute might be opposing, and things that are similar, have been able to focus because you're in control of your space, or where you can self-manage. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Let's say, 5 minutes just to do that now. So we'll send you off and you stick into your rooms. Actually, say 4 minutes. That should be enough. 4 minutes. Send you off into your rooms, and just know, have that conversation. Any similarities and any tensions. Hey guys.
Oh no! So many interesting conversations, so little time.
Okay, well let's hear some of these questions, observations, thoughts. Is it anyone want to share?
I can share.
Yeah, awesome. Please do.
Yeah, I think we had an interesting conversation about the tensions. And the other question mentioned that indeed we have this difference between emotions, like reading people's emotions, and now we read more people's emojis. And sometimes, you know, when you have someone who's focused on reading something, then they look very focused, but they can also look bored. So it's much harder to read someone's emotion if they don't react with emojis. Yeah. So yeah.
Poker face, constant poker face going on. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. There you go. Christian, good on you. Anyone else want to come off and share?
Anyone else?
Antonio, I see you smiling there. You got some fancy art going on in the background.
I think that Laura wanted to say something, right, Laura?
Oh, please do. Go on then.
I had we have a crazy situation where we've been in person almost all the time. So, but the challenge, some of the challenges of just being able to onboard new people when they're not able to be there is a shared thing. There's definitely a sense of control that if people aren't around, that that's lost, and that the self-care part of it resonated, and I know it resonates with my staff when they've had to be on site through all of this. So that's been difficult, but for managers, it's actually, for managers and for my staff, it's almost a similarity, the struggle there.
Oh, we've just brought somebody new onto our team, and we're trying to work our way through that, because we want to just make sure that everyone, it's the communication that's the hardest, just making sure everyone's in the loop, because you're only constrained by these 4 areas. Like you can't really kind of just turn around and they're not there. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So hopefully you've started to discover things. As you can see, as we start to explore around each of the models, we start to get into more interesting topics, and we start to reveal new conversations at a very superficial level. We wouldn't have had that opportunity to interrogate. So that's what's great. So we've worked our way through, and we've managed to get into the mind struct of the opposing models. So thank you just there for sharing before. Laura, for coming on and telling us about those tensions you guys have, and for Christian as well for sharing in regards to the poker faces. That's awesome. So we're going to move on to the final stage. I've only got you for just under 10 minutes. And the final stage today is for today. We're not going to do any prototyping, obviously, or testing. Signals the big shift to ideation. This is the point where we direct our attention to creating a new model. The big question being, how might we turn the components of the models that our stakeholders most value into something new that better solves the problem? Better. Sorry, you picked up on my London accent there. Better. For example, we might ideate around creating a work culture with a fluid system of collaboration that doesn't rely on location, like what we're doing right now. So there's 3 approaches or 3 ways we do this using the framework. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier in regards to some of these methods, that you'll be familiar with them. The great thing about what we've just gone through this process, you would have had a runway with people, with your team or whoever else, so they feel prepared to start mixing and remixing and whatever that might be to come up with new ideas. Because the power is in priming and putting people in that space and mindset where they feel comfortable and confident to ideate. So looking at the 3 models now, I don't know how I can make you all look at what I'm looking at. So hopefully you can now. Can I summon everybody to me? So if you look on just underneath exploration, there's 3 models that are listed. The first is the hidden gem. So you can, I'm guest thinker there. The first is the hidden gem. So here we're going to create a new model only using a building block from each of the 2 models. So whether that's remote or in person or on premise. Here we're referring to the insights we've captured to take a component from each of the models. It's a bit of a pro tip here. You can take a component that's favorable by each of the stakeholders, which means you kind of get into that debate about what you think's the most favorable. But we kind of take it from the opposite perspective. We consider the components from each of the models that you wouldn't give up. So as opposed to my favorite, what's the one thing, if I was to take that away, the model would fall apart. It's critical. So that's an approach we always recommend there with the hidden. So if we scroll down a little bit, we get to the double down, which is the second approach. And this is asking the question, how can we take one complete model, whether that's remote or in premise for the purposes of this example, and just only add one benefit to the other? So we just take one great thing or one thing that's critical to that model and add it in and see what happens. And then the final approach to remixing and ideating to come up with something new is called the decomposition. I see you've all moved down. Fantastic. This is where the challenge would be broken apart in a new way so that each model could be applied in whole to do distinct parts of the problem. Whether the one part might be at the beginning, it might be at the middle, so they can coexist as part of a process. At the moment, most of you know this is like the $1 million question. How do we make remote and the other coexist? So really, we're asking you to think about using one of these approaches now in your pairs to come up with something new. So in your pairs, we're going to be really quick. So we're going to give you 5 minutes to just have a discussion. And first up, you can see that there's some grids there on the right. We're going to ask you in your pairs to first up choose one of the approaches, whether it be a hidden gem, a double down or the decomposition. So the hidden gem is just taking a component from each model. The double down is taking one model and a component from the opposite, or the decomposition is stacking them so they're used in their whole to create something new. And then complete the other areas of the activity. So in your pairs, just have a quick conversation of a new approach and the required components and the tensions that your idea tackles. So refer back to those tensions that everybody shared, and then how it will create value to those stakeholders we've explored. If you have enough time, call out the assumptions that you'd test. So you can see those 4 different areas now. So we're going to give you 5 minutes, and then when we come back, we're going to go around the room to learn what you guys came up with. So we're going to send you off again. This is the last time we're going to send you off today. Are you? So assuming the breakout rooms are about to open, go and find a space, pull 2 things across, just get as far as you can. It's more about going through the process, just applying that thinking and understanding what we're doing now.
Hi.
Oh, Sheila.
We've just figured out the tool.
Oh.
Finally figured out the tool on how to do it.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Whether you put anything in or not, let's just go around the room. Let's go around. Now, who would like to first up share what they came up with? Who came up with something new? Ben, I haven't picked on you yet. You seem to be pretty chilled out there in your business chair. What's going on?
Well, I was with 2 other Christian, and I don't think we came up with anything. We were mainly discussing about what you discussed, and so we are in the first. So we picked the double down, and then we are we are in the first group. So all the way on the left, and the idea we got is okay. I got moved around. So we got so we just started with remote first, and the tension is onboarding always. Yep. So that's what we got so far, and then we got called back. So not like we haven't got anything yet. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Just out of interest, why did you go for what made you choose to double down?
Sorry, please say again.
What made you choose to double down?
We just so one of the Christians thought it's like the easiest model, so we choose for it. Are we correct on that?
How about yourself, Sila? How about yourself? Do you want to come off and share?
We also were going to go with the double down. Anna Maria was telling me how good the remote work is, but there is repetitive problem that we're missing some connection with other people. So that's what we were going to tackle by getting some elements from the on-premise work, but we couldn't do it either.
Love it. Great. I love the fact that, it takes time, but the fact that you started to apply an approach, that's really cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. Now, I know we just got dragged here by somebody. Why did we get dragged here? Jessica, why did you bring us over here? What did you want to share with us?
No, it was actually, I think, their board, so just wanted them to focus else. It was Sila's board, yes.
Okay.
The conversation.
Good on. All right. Let's call one more person. I'm looking. Is that Rian? R-I-I-N? Is that Rian?
Yeah, right. That's perfect.
I did well. Go for it. What did you guys choose?
We were thinking about flexibility, this ability to choose whether you want to work remote or in office place.
That's awesome. That's awesome. This is really cool. So what you're noticing is that you've all kind of got an idea of all the components, and then you're not talking about whether remote or not. You're looking at certain themes. So by looking at certain themes, you're changing the challenge that you're looking, or the creation or the idea that you're focusing on. So you end up with something completely different because the endpoint's different. You're trying to design work with more flexibility. We're not talking about like the application of, and this is just really, we've just used this models for this example for today. So I really appreciate you coming along on this journey. So just to close off, so if we would move on from stage 3, we've had real effort to work through each of the 3 approaches. We've started to generate a few more opportunities and possibilities that strike the group as having the potential to create more value than either of the original 2 opposing models. And then the final stage of the process is to test your prototyping solutions, to discard or improve them, with the goal to design tests that will help you see how well each possibility would work in practice and how effectively they would solve your problem. So in closing, to have a productive session around these 3 approaches, remember some core principles. Use all of them. So don't just choose one, we'd use all of them as thought starters. If one of the approaches doesn't yield an answer, that's cool. The point is to ask the question and just see what comes of it. A second thing, defer judgment. All ideas are good ideas. You can't know where an idea might lead. Turn off your natural instinct to judge them. Instead, just capture everything that are generated and encourage individuals to share, even the ideas that are silly or off the point. And finally, build on the ideas of others. Simply put, more and better ideas will come out if the participants listen to one another. So following these basic principles can help you and your teams collaborate, make connections. These 2 activities that are crucial to generating creative ideas in any context, but especially in the integrated thinking process. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming on the journey. I'm going to open up for questions. Any questions? How we used it, where we used it? Fire away, guys. No? Oh, that's good. You let me off the hook.
This was easy, right, Dan? That's because you did such a great job explaining and taking us through the model. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks, everyone, we've stole 12 minutes extra of your day. So we really appreciate you sticking with us until the end. Thank you so much, Dan, for taking us through the model. The session was recorded, so we are going to send you the recording. And if Dan agrees, we can send you the Miro board as well for you to have a look and explore it a bit more into depth. Maybe you can head over to the chat and drop us a GIF as a checkout with where's your mind at this moment. It can be a thought, it can be a feeling. We're closing the session. Where's your brains at? Drop us a GIF in the chat, and Cheska is going to drop us a couple of links on where you can find Dan, so you can connect with him on LinkedIn, read more about their cool projects with More Space for Light, and also the podcast that they're doing, very interesting as well. And of course, a link to the Butter community, which has launched a bit secretly in the past 2 weeks. So there we are. We're letting you in on a tip. Just popping the link, and we're hopefully seeing you there. That was all. Thanks so much.
See you guys. Thank you.
Strong gift game. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Flying
Thanks,
onto butter.
everyone.
That gets me every time. Guys.
See you guys. I'm going to shoot. See you later.
Thank
Bye,
you. Thank you,
guys.
Dan. Thank you so much, Dan. Bye. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Bye.